Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking. This is Alphas. Alphas, as you probably can guess by the cover, is a comic book superhero-themed board game in which each player will take a team of superheroes or villains, or maybe an amalgamation of them both, and they will go forth in a scenario that could just be them beating the tar out of each other. It could be a bank heist. It could be a local street gang taking to the streets that needs to be mopped up. All kinds of crazy things that you've probably seen in superhero movies, superhero TV shows, and superhero comic books, and things that are, you know, like very, like, if you're into comic books and what have you, you like, you know what I'm talking about. It is a very, and I always avoid trying to say words like elegant, but it is a very, very straightforward, very well-made game that has very immersive gameplay, and it is one that really takes the players into the universe that Alphas is in, and just lets them dive in with both feet and have a blast. I'm going to show you how the game is played. The game itself there isn't a lot, like, as far as rules go to it, but there is a lot to it as far as the level of the, and I'm not going to say complexity, but the depth of the game, and how the creators took the time to really make it feel like a superhero world, a living, breathing world, and that's something that really stood out for me with this one. But let me show you how the game is played. We'll come back here, and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this is Alphas, and before I even step into showing you the rules and how to play and everything like that, I just want to take a moment to just kind of look and see what you're seeing in front of you right now. Now, this is a prototype that was sent to me by the designer and the developer of the game, and so I don't know exactly if what you're looking at in front of you right now will be what you're going to have in the game when you get it in your hands. But just look at how cool this looks just for a moment, because that's one of the things that when my daughter and I play a lot of this. And you can play like scenarios, and the scenarios are cool. Like one team will be like the heroes, one team will be the villains, and you'll both have like an objective. And depending upon how well you do, then like if the villains win, then they get like a little bonus for the next part of the story, and so on and so forth. The heroes win, they get a bonus for the next part of the story, that sort of thing. And that's really cool, and I like that. But my daughter and I would play this. My daughter would like set up the map, and then we'd randomly draw different heroes or villains, and just come up with like a hodgepodge of a team, and then we would just, you know, duke it out. Or maybe we'd have like like if these are my heroes, I needed to get them to the other side of the map without getting knocked out, and then I would win. So and that for me was really, really fun, and I'll talk more about that in my final thoughts. But just like I said, there's lots of this. In a nutshell, is a card and dice, you know, tactical board game, right? And there's lots of card and dice tactical board games. Now, not all of them are going to have rule sets like this one has, which is just a really, really good, straightforward, like, rule set that has, you know, enough, like, grit and enough, like, alteration to it, I guess, you know, like, and that you can really dive in and really start developing some strategies and what have you. But there's a lot of games out there that have really good rule sets as well. But what really made this one stand out for me was the immersion level. And I'm going to say that a lot during this review. The immersion level of this game is huge. You know, it feels like you're in a superhero movie or in a superhero TV show. It feels like you're reading a comic book, or you just picked up the latest graphic novel of your favorite superhero team. That's what drew me in, and that's what's really, really awesome about this. So just like I said, I'm going to be saying immersion a lot, or referencing that a lot during this review. But regardless, so what you're seeing in front of you is obviously like a city street. There's cars in the road. You see fire hydrants. You have manholes, good for the sewers. You have lampposts. You have trees. You have these buildings, obviously. Everything here isn't just there for show. It's there to be interacted with. You know, crates can be hidden behind and picked up and thrown at somebody to possibly do more damage. If you have super strength, you can pick up a car and throw it at somebody as well. The little vending machines. They have, if you use an action near them, you can buy a Kapow Cola and like you drink an energy drink and you get more energy. Obviously, like you'd be able to use like trees to for to hide behind and so you can avoid damage. But the vast majority of these things can take damage. Buildings can take damage and they can be knocked down. Cars obviously can like take enough damage and they'll explode and actually hurt the heroes that are near it. Lampposts provide light during night scenarios. So like and for a certain area around it. So like you don't have to take a negative to see or things like that. And all of these things and even though I gave Chris, the designer, a little bit of grief because like the fire hydrants, if you knock them over, they spew water all over the place. But that doesn't really happen. That's just a movie thing. And he knew, but he put it in because that's what happens in comic books, right? So stuff like that is what makes this game really, really cool. It's the fact that like if it happens in like comic books or superhero movies, things like that, it happens in this game. If your character gets knocked off a building, they take damage if they can't fly. Like you can still, like, but it isn't like the hero. Like you can have people that can perch on top of buildings and can't be touched. Everybody else can, because what can heroes do? Heroes, they're just super athletic, right? So it just takes them a little bit more energy to climb, but they're able to climb up on top of buildings because that's what they do. But obviously if you can fly or you have wall climbing or what have you, teleportation, you can do it quicker and more efficiently. But it does, like, these are the things that, like, it makes sense, I guess, is, like, the big thing, right? The world that you're in makes sense, and or at least comic book sense. But anyway, getting beyond myself a little bit already, and I apologize for that, but just, take it in, because like I said, this game just looks cool. Alright, so, the big thing here is that it is a card and dice game, like I said. Each game, you're going to get, there's the deck of cards that are called an enhancement deck. Now, enhancement cards are just that. They're enhancements that you're going to be able to use to improve. So, reroll the accuracy enhancement. Reroll any number of your attack dice. Defensive, increase the strength of a defense die. Knockback, and +2 knockback or pull to an attack. So, these are add 2 to your move or ability action. So, these are things that you know. These are good. Damage enhancement. Increase the strength of an attack die. So, these are all things that, like, obviously that just kind of will bend the rules. And each player will get 3 of these to start with, and then as the game progresses, you're able to collect more with your dice rolls and things like that. So when I reference enhancement deck or enhancement cards, that's what these are right here. Now, each hero gets a card like this. And on the backs of each one of these cards will be their powers. Anything that's blue is just a passive effect that occurs. Something that is green is like a movement power they have. And these red ones are going to be attack powers. Things down here are the different... are different symbols that, as you play the game, you'll learn them and you'll recognize them. But, like, you do get a handy little cheat sheet, so you can see that, like this is a ranged attack. When this figure makes a basic attack action, they make it at a target up to 7 spaces away. So, like, that means they have a ranged attack. That little shield there means that they're leadership. Once per round, search your activation deck for one figure, activate that figure, shuffle your activation deck after. And then with 2 shields, they get to draw an enhancement card. So, like, there's little powers on there. And then the big thing, obviously, is these things up here. You have this, means that they have 5 health. And once they lose that health, they're unconscious. This is their energy that they get when they're activated. And this is their speed, their movement. Their basic attack is going to use a blue and a yellow die. And their basic defense is going to use a yellow and a blue die. And each one of those tells you exactly what each of those things are. Now, some heroes, they'll just have this where it says no special setup on the bottom, like Title here. The Aquaman type guy, my man. Just I actually he's pretty good. I like using him. But like Polaris here, she gains these little frost tokens, and she can use those frost tokens as she's playing for different like ice effects, you know, for defending herself and what have you, as the game progresses. So and you like obviously you get a bunch of these, and then each one of those heroes and villains gets one of these cards that's just going to have their picture on it, and then it's going to have their number on the bottom. Now this is the activation deck. Remember you saw the thing where it was the activation deck? Activations are just that. It's going to tell you which characters get to activate first. Some characters are going to be super fast, and some characters are going to be slower than others. Now I just picked 2 people for each one of these things. I referenced something with one of those enhancement cards, like increasing the power of an attack. So there's 5 different colors of dice, and let me just grab all 5 different colors of dice. And so they range in ability. So green dice are really, really good defensively, but not very good offensively. Red dice are exactly the opposite. Great offensively, not so good defensively. And so they go up and down the spectrum like this. So like, and you slowly climb the ladder to there. So if you have defense dice that are these colors, that's good. If you have attack dice that are these colors, that's good, and vice versa. So when you have, like, let's say you had a black die as your attack die, and somebody said, well, I use a power to increase my attack power, you then would roll a yellow die instead. So the results on these dice are, like, you can see that there's these little these alpha symbols. If you get 2 alpha symbols, you can use that. I mean, like there's lots of different powers, but like different things, and I'll show you some of those that allow you to do different things with that. But more commonly, it allows you to draw another card from the enhancement deck when you get 2 of those symbols on a die roll. These little bursts, obviously, those are hits, and let's see here. Okay, and the hit that has that parentheses around it, it's a critical hit, and it actually equals 3 hits. And it can be blocked, however, by, let me grab my green die here. You can see, by a critical defense, which is the only thing that can, you know, block one of those. But like, you know, it could be considered to be 2 defense results as well. So you can see the green die has no attack like bursts on it, and the red die has no shields on it. So that the opposite spectrums, right? But you know, obviously they have these little, and then so as you go, so like here, this blue die, you know, there you can see it has a burst on it and a burst on there, but other than that, it's got a lot of shields, you know, not much. And so, like, you know, it just makes sense, right? And just keep in mind, like, green, blue, black, yellow, red. That's the from defense to attack. That's the different levels. So what happens is that, like, I took these 2 teams, and on one team I put Legend and Arc. Let me just grab this. So I took Legend and Arc and put them on one team. Legend. Oh no, not Legend and Arc. I apologize. I took Blackbird and Arc and put them on one team, and there's I got them confused because of the bow, right? So on one team, and then that'll be like one group, and then I took Legend and Hotspot, there we go, and I put them on the other team. Now I just want to talk about Legend and Hotspot real quick because I got them close so I can use them. Hotspot's kind of a cool character. He is obviously going to have some flame powers and what have you, but he also has these little flame symbols. And they start off on this little ember here. But when you do, like certain things, like when you use your thermodynamics power, move your speed in a straight line, gain 1 Inferno. So you get to flip that over to that. And then if you have the Inferno, you can use any number of Inferno to heal yourself 1, increase the strength of your die by 1, or gain +2 speed. I really like heroes that have these little powers, because then you have like this kind of like action that you have control over what happens, you know, as far as, you know, like doing the different things. And, you know, so, and like this is, so like if you move, but you gotta be in a straight line, you can, you know, buff yourself, if you will. In things like that, like, once again, they just make sense in a comic book world. So Legend, he gains these 4 arcane arrows. And so you get these little symbols like here. And you then have like arcane quiver. Spend an arcane arrow to add a black die to an attack roll. Add blast to your attack. So blast would be an explosion when it hits. Or re-roll your attack. No maximum arrows spent. So, and then if he has 2 of those alpha symbols on a roll, he can regain an arcane arrow. Remember, I said that like there will be other powers and abilities that allow you to spend those alpha symbols, like for different things. So then, like, this is one where you would be a different thing that you could spend it on. Instead of drawing an enhancement card, you could gain back one of the tokens that you spent. All right, so, and then obviously there's all these other things too, where it's like, foe gains -1 energy, so you actually affect the energy they have. You know, spend, like, and then that's a type of card. Spend a speed enhancement card to shift 1, so shift, move 1. And then, like, it has, like, special, like, knockback rules, so you can actually, like, knock back people. And so, like, you can see then here, like, it's a spray attack. So it, like, you know, so it actually, like, has, instead of just one single person, you're actually spraying several. So, you know, just cool little things like that. Anyway, so the way this works, and I didn't want to go way deep into the rules, because there is, I don't want to say there's a lot of rules, because the rules just make sense, but there are, like lots of different, like, things that you can do. And I think that's a good thing with this type of game. You don't want to just run to the center of the board and just, you know, beat the tar out of each other. I mean, you want to have different options and things that you can do as far as the different actions that you have. But the big thing what you're going to be doing is that each person is going to take their activation cards, their activation deck. And mind you, you can have giant teams. You could have 10 versus 10. I mean, obviously, the more players you have, the longer it's going to take, but the more epic it's going to be. And then what happens is that each person will turn their top card over, like so, and you'll compare the numbers. And so in this case, since Arc has the higher number, they're going to go ahead of... Oh, I drew the same deck. Hold on. I apologize. So if you... There you go. So you draw a hotspot there, and, like, then you draw... And now, like, you would have a situation there where Blackbird would go after hotspot. And then the next time when you turn them over, you'd have Legend... and you'd have Arc, and you'd have different activations. And I like that. Because there's a lot of games like this that have just a you go, I go aspect. Like, pick a person, move it. You know, you pick a person, move it. And, you know, for example, I play a lot of Warhammer and Age of Sigmar, and, like, that's a very prevalent thing. It's like, it's my turn to move all my guys, now it's your turn to move all your guys. You know, it's just, and that, I like the dynamic, you know, back and forth initiative of it, you know, not knowing exactly, you know, what is going to happen. That's why having, like, that leader ability is really, really powerful, because you can go through, you know, like, I really need this person to act as soon as possible, so you can use that ability to do that. So cool stuff like that going on. But the big thing is that when you activate them, you have a certain amount of energy, and you have these energy tokens, and you just gather them, and what you're going to do is you're going to spend those to do certain things. Most commonly, especially at the very beginning, what you're going to be doing is you're spending them to move. And as I said, like, climbing down from buildings or getting up from buildings will cost extra movement, depending upon if you don't have any, like, special powers that you know, coincide. But for the most part, whatever your character's speed is, you get to move that with an activation. So here we have Hotspot, and what it says is that, like, he has a speed of 6, and he has 5 energy. So, and you could spend your entire movement on, like, all your energy on moving. And, like, so you would just, you know, and you can't, like, you know, and you would just go 1, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, and so on and so forth. Now, along the way, you may want to take certain actions, and you notice these cost energy as well. So if I wanted to do that thermodynamics and move in a straight line, I'd only get to move my speed. You know, I'd be spending 2 energy to move my speed in a straight line, but I'd be able to flip one of my tokens over. Now, these attack things, like, also cost a certain amount of energy. So, like, what a lot is going to... And, mind you, remember, you can always do your basic attacks. Those, you always have those available to you. But, you know, spending extra energy to be able to do these bigger things, obviously good. Like Exothermic Wave, you know, knockback 2, you may spend 1 Inferno to gain +2 range, and then spend this, that's a type of card, to heal friendlies. You know, so... if you have one of those cards in your hand, you could actually put that in. And then it's like a spray, 2, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, and so, like, let's just do that. So, let's say, let's just put Arc right here. And, you know, she just did her attack, and now it's my turn to move forward. And so, Hotspot, let's just say, you know, he moved into this spot. I'm knocking all the trees and lampposts over here. We moved into that spot, and now we're going to go ahead, and it's like a spray 2. And I can spend 1 Inferno to gain +2 range, and I'm not going to heal anybody, but I could possibly do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll 2 yellow dice, and let's look and see what Arc has for a defense die. So Arc has a blue die for defense, which is actually pretty good. You know, it isn't green, but it's pretty good. But let's say... we're getting ready to roll those 2, and let's say my opponent, let me just actually find one of those cards. Let's say they spend, a blue, so they're going to get a green die. They spend that, they're going to get a green die. So I would roll these 2. Let's see what I get here. So I get an alpha symbol, which, you know, isn't going to help me at all, but I get 2 hits, because normally you need 2 alpha symbols to be able to do something. And then they would roll this 1 green die. And they would get a critical shield. Now remember, a critical shield, if I had rolled, if I had had a red die, and I had rolled a critical hit, that would defend that. But a shield, a critical shield, can also be used as 2 defense. So in this case, it would defend that particular attack, and nothing would happen. Now, if we, let's just play with it a little bit, and let's say we got 2 and 2, and we got that critical defense. So I'm only able to take care of 2 of those, 2 of the attacks. Now the person that is playing Arc would need to take 2 damage, and put that on their character sheet. But also you notice that they have this knockback 2. Now, knockback, and there's lots of different effects and things like that. You can get knocked down even, which causes people to discard enhancement cards. Knockdown is huge. But, like, when you knock somebody back, you get to push them away from you. And they can't go diagonally, but they don't have to go on a straight line. So you could go, like, 1, 2, like so. Now, the big thing about using your world here, and, like, is that, like, let's just here, check this out. So, and I'm gonna move things around here a little bit. But when you look at, like, the fire hydrant, a figure knocked back or pulled into a fire hydrant takes an additional injury and is knocked back from the fire hydrant 2 spaces. You know, kind of like the spraying water or whatever. So let's just move them really quickly. And this is, I'm just showing you the immersion, as I said. So let's say the attack happened that way. I get to knock them back 2. 1, 2. They take another hit, so they'd have to add another entry token to their character. And then they get to be knocked another 2 from there. So I can, like, knock them back to there. If I'm on the edge of a building, and I've done this a few times when I'm playing, and this makes me happy. Like, when you do something like that, you actually get to, like knock them straight off the building. And unless they have, like, the ability to fly or things like that, they will fall and take even more damage. This is that immersion that I was talking about. That whole, like, the world just makes sense, right? If you think it should happen, it'll happen in the game. Now, The problem with showing you how a game like this is played is that there's just so much, right? I mean, there's so many different heroes with so many different powers and so many different abilities. There's so many different scenarios to show. There's so many different aspects of the game. I really can't. I mean, I could spend hours showing you how this game works, but I think that's going to give you a good idea of how the game is played. And the turns are quick. I mean, it's just like, you go, okay, I'm going to move here and I'm going to do this. Okay, now I go, and I'm going to move and do this. And they, like, again, it has lots of options, but you don't get bogged down with the options, because it usually, like, the process, or what you're going to be trying to do, is, for lack of a better term, it's evident, I guess, and it keeps the action, it keeps the excitement going. I was a little worried when I first saw it. I was like, this map is huge. I was like, it's gonna take me forever to get over there and fight you. But because of the fact that they have tons of energy and they have tons of movement, the heroes and villains are able to get close together and fighting really, really fast. So one other thing I wanted to say, and this real quick, so not all heroes and villains are going to be the same size. Some of them are going to be different, so you can kind of see. And like different sized, like if there's even like smaller. So like if you're wondering if there's like Ant-Man type heroes, there are, you know, so you can even shrink down even smaller. But so here's with these figures. Now you actually, like, this guy, I believe, this is the Yeti. And, like, I think his speed's only, like, 3. And I was like, oh, this guy's going to take forever to go anywhere. But they actually move like this. Like, they're full, like, you know, character. Like, their full base. They aren't going to move the squares one by one. And I thought that was pretty cool, too. Because it allowed them to get around the board. But it also, it gave them kind of a, like, a bounding feel to it, right? If you understand what I'm saying, like, you can actually see, like, this Yeti, like, yeah, it may not be moving super fast, but because he's big, he's just bounding down the street, you know, towards the heroes, getting ready to club them to death with a tree that he just, you know, uprooted from the ground. So, you know, it's stuff like that I really liked, and it's just everything about the game. The designer, it just seemed like they really took the time to make it feel correct. And once again, I'm going to go back and say immersion again. But regardless, you should have a really good idea of how the game is played. I invite you to go to the you know, like the Board Game Geek page, or go to the Kickstarter page. You can take a big old deep read of the rules like I have here, and you could also just dive in and see what's what. So, but let me talk more about how awesome this game is in my final thoughts. So that is Alphas. Alright, so thank you very much for taking the time to watch that. Like I said, I'm sorry that I couldn't show you, like, all, like, whatever it is. I think it's like 20 or 30 different heroes that I was given. You know, and, like, all the different powers and abilities. I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of time that it took the creators to, like, really... I mean, obviously, like, you could grab one of the old Marvel superhero hero guides and flip it and point to a picture, but then you got to take that hero's abilities and powers and what have you, and then, like, come up with them, right? Come up with a design for them, come up with an idea behind them, and then make the powers that they, you know, that you're used to seeing in superhero movies and stuff, like, you know, super speed, you know, super strength, you know, claws and fire powers and telekinesis and teleportation and magic and all those things, and take those and put them into a game. And make the game work. And kudos to the designers as far as, like, that. I mean, that was, like, you know, really well done. No, you know, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to say once again, if you are, like, a big giant comic book nerd, and I am a big giant comic book nerd, I have several Batman themed tattoos. I have a collection of, you know, well over 1,000 or 2,000 graphic novels. You know, I am a big, huge superhero nut. And when I heard about this game, and when Chris and Ben, the designers, told me about it, I was like, this is intense. I mean, I was, like, super jazzed to play it. And then when they showed me the game. I mean, they live in Minnesota, so they're fairly close to me. when they actually drove up to show me the game, and I played it with them one afternoon, I was like, whoa, I mean, this is there's just beyond. I mean, it was beyond anything that I expected, and it just blew me away. And that was just the look of it. And then I actually played it, and like I said, each of the powers, each of the abilities, each of the things that happens in this world that you're inhabiting, they just, like I said, it just makes sense. It's fluid. It's like it's a place where I want there to be comic books of this thing. I want to know like the backstory of the Yeti. I want to know where Legend got his bow and arrows. You know, I want to know how these heroes and villains came to be and why they exist and what their motivations are and things like that. And hopefully, you know, and I know there are writing like the rule book is fantastic. It actually kind of is written in a way to like dive you into with tutorial missions that are really well done. The scenario is like looks like a comic book, you know, complete with the comic book baggie, you know, so it's, you know, it's just a delight. It's an absolute delight to play. And you know, and the thing is that with the scenarios, the nice thing with the scenarios is like, yeah, okay, I lost that mission, but I'm not out. You just, you know, the other person gets a little bonus or whatever for the next one, and then you go in and you do the next one. And the bonus isn't so huge that you can't overcome it. It's just like a little benefit that like just kind of adds to the story. And ultimately, I don't care if I win or lose. This game is just fun because of the story, because the action that is being created on the table that I'm seeing in my head. I can't remember. I can't even tell you how many times my daughter and I like acted out and then bam! Off the top of the building you go and crash onto the ground. You know, stuff like that. I mean, and that's what I was here for this game, was that play, that immersion, there's that word, and that fun. And that's what it is. It's just really, really, really good. So I strongly suggest, if you are if you like this type of game, if you like this, like the card and dice tactical game, and if you are a superhero nut, this one, you're gonna love it. And I strongly suggest backing it so you can get yourself a copy. So there you go. If you have any questions about the game at all, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.